Can I get a mic or a mic and a half? That the source owe me. Shout out to the editor staff. Yeah, I'm all grown, so much better with math. I need a spread in the Forbes, taking the Benjamin bath. Yeah, I'm serving this track like Steffi Graf. Yeah, Roger Federer, there's no competitor.
Urban Tennis, episode 46. Boris! Welcome back, everyone, to the Urban Tennis Podcast. I'm your host, joined by my co-host.
How do you do?
Pretty good. We're recording this Sunday night, the night before Wimbledon. It feels like the night before Christmas. Everybody's excited, and we got a lot to talk about. We're going to start off with Novak Djokovic. He's been missing for the entire grass court season. So we're going to talk about his mindset and talk about his coach, Boris Becker, and some of the more troubling or troublesome comments he's made in these last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about, is he British? Is he Scottish? I think he's definitely British going into the Wimbledon until he loses. Andy Murray. Is Andy Murray actually better than he was in 2013 when he last won this thing? Then we're going to talk about Serena and her so-called no pressure going into Wimbledon. Plus, we're going to cover some technology and media segments, provide some predictions, challenges, everything you need in this pre-Wimbledon podcast.
AKA Monday Morning Zoo for your Monday morning.
Episode 46 starts right now. So 2015 was the first year of the extended grass court season. We had 3 weeks instead of 2 between the French and Wimbledon. But Novak Djokovic, our number one player, did not take any opportunity to actually get some match play. The Queen's Club held a wild card for him just in case, but he selected not to go there. So he's going to be playing for the first time Monday, like the traditional champion, opening up center court, 1 o'clock British Standard Time, against the very troubling Philip Kohlschreiber, a veteran, a good grass court player. So that's when we'll first see him. But what do you think Novak's mindset is here? The last time we saw him, obviously that devastating loss to Stan Wawrinka. He's had 3 weeks now. What do you think his mindset is going into a tournament that he's, once again, a very presumptive favorite?
I think he's a presumptive favorite, of course, but I just feel like, of course he's going to want to win Wimbledon. Of course he's going to want to win the US Open, but this is the closest he's ever been to the French Open, and he lost it. You could say Stan Wawrinka probably might have played the best match of his life. Even more, it was more decisive than not more decisive, but less controversy than the Nadal win he had before. So even taking that into account, I think Djokovic still thinks he should have been able to beat Wawrinka on his best day, and he didn't. So I think it's going to really hang over his head highly. But Djokovic, he has his emotions in check, though. Like this isn't the Djokovic from 5 years ago, who might just bounce out of the fourth round at Wimbledon. He's the best player in the world. Let's always remember that. So I don't think it was too much of a concern. But unless he faces a certain somebody who we're going to mention a bit later in this podcast.
But even though we know Djokovic has been so dominant, he's only won one slam of the last 11 now, I believe.
Yes, that's true, actually.
Right? Yeah. He hasn't done the job. He won Wimbledon and won the Aussie. So of the two in the last 11, you would expect much more than that.
Yeah. Especially in a time where it seems like there's more and more parity.
Exactly. Well, I think the key for Djokovic and his mindset is going to be his ability to put this loss behind him. Because we've seen, you could argue that this loss, I know Wawrinka's 60 winners, he punished Djokovic. It wasn't a bad loss, but if he kind of takes it to himself that it was a bad loss, that it was on him, we've seen in the past where he's gone through a stretch where he's lost his decisive sets, whether it be third sets, fifth sets. And just a couple of years ago, athletically, Djokovic is at a level that no one else is at in tennis. He's leaps and bounds above everyone else. It's when the mental game figures in, and the fact that if it gets to a tight place in a match, he hasn't done it in the past, even though he was doing it this year. If he reverts back to that old model, then there's trouble. Otherwise, I agree with you. Huge favorite for Wimbledon, huge favorite for the US Open. and he'll face the winner of Jarkko Nieminen or Leighton Hewitt, two guys who are playing their last Wimbledon, but both experienced on the surface.
But what a great first round matchup, if you can talk about that for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, two guys who said they're leaving in the year facing each other at Wimbledon.
It's poetic, but, in a way, you'd like to see both guys kind of make a mini run. Obviously, it won't happen.
Yeah, so good value for first day ticket holders.
Exactly.
And queue holders, however they do it there again.
If you want to queue up for that match, definitely worthy of that.
Yeah.
But like I said, a couple of good veteran opponents for Djokovic. He's going to get right back in it. So, obviously, if he can overcome any thoughts he has of, cracking through the stretches, he's still going to be a clear favorite in many people's minds. Let's talk about Boris Becker. Mm-hmm. Comments a couple of weeks ago around the end of the French Open, where he made it clear that in his mind that it's pretty obvious that Djokovic and Federer are not on good terms. Federer responded to that. He's like, the way you see me is the way I act. And then there's more recent comments about Becker saying there's nothing wrong with silent coaching, and that if he offers any non-verbal cues to Djokovic, that's all good. Obviously, Becker was brought in because he's a legend. Obviously, Wimbledon is where he made that legend, 6-time Grand Slam champion. But in many ways, he's bigger than a coaching profile. He's a bigger personality than Ivan Lendl, a bigger personality than any of these super coaches have been. And eventually, you felt that something would kind of come to the forefront because Boris Becker's always been very opinionated. What do you think, if anything, these comments can only do harm, I think, to Djokovic if he loses?
Oh, absolutely. There'll be a lot of talk about how, Djokovic, all the physical stuff's there, but then he gets criticism for not being mentally there. That still lingers from his early part of his career. And if he loses, especially if he loses before, say, the semifinals,
right,
it's going to see, okay, maybe you should have a coach who can maybe keep you a little more focused and keep you away from a distraction like this. Because it's, much as you could say, I think Federer's like a different type of a player too, right? You could say he may not get along with everyone on tour, but he never shows it.
Right.
I think that's the thing why it's very difficult to bring up a conflict with Federer, because
you can call out anybody else, but when you call out Federer, it just carries more weight, it seems.
It does. It seems like you're digging deep and you're finding that story. You're finding that Tiger Woods type story.
The institution of tennis you're trying to knock down. Roger Federer embodies what tennis is in the modern game, and if you're trying to kind of go up against that, it's not going to go well. Obviously, Becker, if things go wrong, I think he's got a short leash, Novak Djokovic has protected himself, insulated himself with a good group. He's built a brand. He's kind of finally getting out of the shadows of Federer and Nadal. He doesn't need this kind of controversy. I expect he's going to have a good result. But once again, if he loses early, I expect there will be repercussions in the fact that there will possibly and probably be a mutual parting. You kind of agree that that's where it's leading? Just because of how protective Novak Djokovic has been in creating Novak Djokovic Inc.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's, like you mentioned, that's a really good point, that Djokovic isn't becoming the third best player of his era. He's he's trying to push to become one of the 10 best players ever.
Right. So 5 best players.
5, even that.
He's got bigger goals now, and he doesn't want to be sidetracked by petty issues.
Absolutely. And, but then where's he going to get his off-court coaching?
Right, okay. All right, let's look at the top half of the draw. Obviously, Djokovic centers it. Kei Nishikori is in Djokovic's quarter. In the other quarter, we have Stan Wawrinka and Milos Raonic. Who do you kind of see posing the biggest threat to Novak from the top half? Or even from those names I said?
Yeah, probably Nishikori. Nishikori he's right on that brink, it always seems like. He's still in that bit of the younger side of the guys on the brink. So at any time he might gain that set or two on Djokovic and get that win over him. It probably won't be at the Wimbledon because.
But remember, he has that calf issue, so
yeah, that's true.
If it's going to be important to watch him in the first couple of matches, but he does pose a different talent. I think it's going to be... I think Milos Raonic, if he's healthy in his foot, I think he's going to reach the semis. I don't know if he'll pose any threat to... Djokovic.
Yeah.
That's where I think Wawrinka might, if he makes it, but I think Wawrinka's in for a letdown. I expect Novak to come out of the top half, probably beating Milos Raonic.
That makes sense, because I mean, Djokovic's game at his when he's on point will always beat Raonic's game.
Right.
That's without a doubt.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about the big name in the bottom half.
Yeah, we were holding off talking about him because we dedicated an entire segment to him. Yes, Andy Murray comes into Wimbledon in excellent form. So, is Andy Murray a better player, Andy Murray 2015, than Andy Murray 2013, where of course he won Wimbledon?
Yeah, so that's the stretch from 2012, starting at the Olympics where he won the gold, all the way to 2013 Wimbledon. Now, 1 year stretch where he won 2 slams and a gold medal. He doesn't have the peak results, but I think he's consistently better. And I'll tell you why. We looked at an excellent clay court season from him. Excellent. Undefeated in the warm-ups. He actually won a Master Series event on clay and only lost to Djokovic in the semis, and he pushed that to 5. And this was a time where we thought Djokovic was basically driven by whatever force you believe in. That was inevitable he would win the French Open. Obviously, we didn't know what was coming when the Wawrinka buzzsaw come.
Yeah, even more. Like that match looked like it was going to be 3 sets and done.
Yeah.
Then Murray pushes it to 5.
Exactly. And we have the fact that he had the same result in Australia as he did in 2013. He made the finals, lost to Djokovic. I think results-wise, no. But I think he's better positioned now. I think you could argue that he wasn't as ready to win the 2013 one as he's ready to win 2015. So that's why I'm going to play slightly. I think he's in better shape in 2015 than he was in 2013, even though he was coming off a gold medal and winning the U.S. Open just 9 months before. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that, because Andy Murray, like, there's a reason why he doesn't have as many slams as other guys, mainly because the other guys are better than him. That's true.
Right.
But then he has these months where he doesn't play well. And he seems like he's left those months behind him in 2014. And
lower lows, much more consistent, I feel, quality tennis.
Absolutely. 2015, like, it seems like you know exactly what you're going to get from Andy Murray match. And the only time he's losing is if he's playing his opponent is playing up to their strengths and beating them in areas where Andy Murray usually can't reach.
Right.
So if Andy Murray was consistently hitting those points at Wimbledon,
yeah,
He's
going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, July 11th, we'll probably be seeing an Andy Murray match.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it. Okay, how about 2 other guys who want to figure in but have struggled of late? Not Roger as much at Wimbledon, but Rafael Nadal for sure. Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer have fairly easy first weeks, but they've proven in the last couple of years that that's not a given for them. What do you think? Are you first confident that they can pass the first week? And what are some key things they need to do to ensure their passage into the second week?
Well, Roger Federer gives no indication that this time that he won't make it past the first week.
Right, yeah.
He's really just checkmarked everything that he does.
It feels like 2013 was an anomaly.
Yeah, absolutely.
For him at Wimbledon.
Yeah, 2013 was an anomaly for everyone.
Except Andy Murray, hopefully.
Yeah.
he feels it wasn't.
Yeah, but on both sides of the draw for men's and women's, it was a wacky year.
Yeah.
I'll remember 2013.
Yes.
But beyond that point, yeah, Federer getting his grass court win before Wimbledon is a big check mark in his favor. So it seems like
winning Hala for the 8th time.
Yep, doing that. So
we're pretty confident that Federer is going to make it to the first week.
He did good at the French Open.
Yeah.
Like he did. Obviously, he didn't go to the semis or the court, but then I don't think anybody really expected that for this year at the French Open.
Okay, so then all questions are on Rafael Nadal, and all as reports indicate, he has spent a lot of time either playing. He's played singles and doubles. Won Stuttgart, lost early in Queen's Club, has really hit the practice courts. He's got his white outfit stained in grass as much as he can. So there can't be many excuses for him that he didn't get enough tune-ups in.
Yeah, with more tune-up time this year, of course. Too.
Exactly. And so do you feel that's going to help him? Just getting the repetition on the court, it will help him kind of prevent Any early falls where we've become accustomed to from Nadal?
I think so, because Nadal is he's one of the more physical players on the tour.
Yeah.
So if he knows exactly where to run to, and where to hit that ball, that bodes better for him. And the only downside of that is that maybe he's straining himself too much before going into Wimbledon.
Right.
Because there was an extra week to prepare, but that's also another week where he's playing tennis.
Well, I think a plus for him this year is going to be the draw. It doesn't seem like he's going to come up against a traditional big hitter for a long time. Last year, Nick Kyrgios, big serve, aced him off the court, beat him in the fourth round. Before that, big servers again and again. It seems like he's avoided that. So if he can kind of get back into the rhythm, once again, he's got to be aggressive. If Nadal, when he does well at the U.S. Open or at Wimbledon, he's definitely more aggressive. So if we see a more aggressive Nadal, I think he stands probably, conditioning-wise, health-wise, his best shot to probably make it deep. He will probably run into Andy Murray in the quarters. And like we said before, Andy Murray's probably a really big favorite there. But for many, we just want to see Nadal reach that quarterfinal stage and not kind of trip up in the second or third round. Okay, let's push back. Who do you see coming out of this bottom half? Is it Andy Murray's to lose, or do you give Roger a chance? Anybody else you kind of see coming out of here? Tomas Berdych we haven't talked about.
I just think all the evidence supports Andy Murray.
Yeah.
Just because there's nothing this year that he's done not to corroborate that. Yeah, but then of course you have, when you have Nadal, Federer, and Berdych, he's always a tricky guy, especially on grass. So there's a lot that will happen on this grass court, and I think that's what makes it a more interesting Wimbledon, because there's storylines from players who have high expectations,
right?
But then it's still more open for other players to take them down.
Whatever my prediction holds, I do think Andy Murray's going to come out of this bottom half, and we're looking at a Djokovic and Murray final, which should be a treat.
I agree. So it should, even if we get what we expect, it should be a good match. If we don't, well, maybe we get some good storylines from players taking wins where they weren't supposed to.
Let's talk about a player who's going for history seemingly every event.
Absolutely. Serena Williams has stated in pregame interviews that she feels a little pressure ahead of another chance at the Serena Slam.
She feels very little pressure, not a lot of pressure, right?
She feels, a little pressure. No, little pressure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I just added an A in there, so not too much difference.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, this is about Serena Williams. Okay. Serena. So, why do you think that she's? Do you think she's mostly right about this statement? Like how her mindset going into this tournament?
I think absolutely she's right, because the pressure in any Serena match is never really on her until she knows she's in a losing position. Mm-hmm. She goes into the court expecting to win, and most times she does it. So I think the pressure is going to be on the field. We see often, the French Open was a key example. When Serena felt pressure, when she lost those sets, she turned it on. Here, I think she's basically telling the field, come get me, okay? If you want to apply pressure on me, then I'll feel it. But right now, I feel very little of it. I know there's a chance for the Serena Slam. I know the calendar slam is still alive. But overall, there's very little pressure on me until you put that pressure on me.
Yeah, and then Serena kind of defied expectations in a weird way at the French Open.
Yeah.
Because usually we were discussing this. Okay, you got to be Serena. You got to take the second set off Serena. Yeah. Players have taken the first set and gone through with Serena, but players did take the second set off Serena. Right, yeah. So they were carrying the momentum in the third set. Yeah. Serena turned it back.
Safarova in the finals won the second set when she was down 4-1.
Exactly.
You thought she took momentum away in the match, but Serena shut the door in the third set.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So then that's, I think, why it seems like Serena is this even further. The gap is even further, if that makes sense. Yeah. Over the rest of the field, because it used to be, okay, you got to jump on Serena, take her momentum out, but then it seems like Serena is able to get her momentum back now. It's insane for a veteran like that to be able to do that.
But now the key at Wimbledon has been she hasn't been spectacular at Wimbledon of late. Mm-hmm. She won in 2012, but she hasn't won the last 2 years. There seems to be a prototype of player that can beat her, and one of those might be her sister Venus Williams. who she may face in the fourth round. Big serve, big forehands. Somebody like a Sabine Lisicki has done that to her. Alizé Cornet has been fearless against her.
I guess Kvitova's never faced her at Wimbledon, right?
No, and that's I think what we can talk about that. Kvitova has been given a very easy, manageable draw. Mm-hmm. If she can kind of handle her own stuff, she could put herself in real position to win another one and kind of certify herself as the best player on grass of this upcoming generation.
And I think for most of the casual fans, she could put herself over. But if she does beat Serena in that,
I think maybe that's what we missed from Serena. She's avoided Kvitova. She didn't play Azarenka when Azarenka was dominating at the Australian Open. So to meet someone who really kind of has command of the surface, it would be a really tantalizing matchup. Let's talk about those who are struggling. Simona Halep, Jeannie Bouchard, top 10 players, top 12 players are struggling. What would be positive for them out of this tournament? Especially for Simona, who has her own quarter, potentially a semifinal against Petra Kvitova.
Yeah, then I think she's got to make that quarterfinal at least.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It may be pretty obvious, but then Simona was she was right on that brink, and she's falling back. So it's a very, it does happen in tennis, and even especially on the women's side. So, but then Simona Halep, we always joked about her being the villain of Canada against Eugenie Bouchard, but she's a pretty likable character overall. So, you always want to see a more consistent top 10 in women's tennis.
Do you expect more of the chaos we saw at the French with the top 10? Because there's only a couple. I feel there could be a complete reversal here. Safarova could fall early, and we could see some like Caroline Wozniacki or Maria Sharapova go deep, even though Sharapova struggled at Wimbledon late. I could see there, after Serena, there seems to be a flux, and probably Petra here, a flux in who we think is going to be around late in this tournament. We have those floaters, like we say, Sabine Lisicki, Victoria Azarenka, ranked 22. Madison Keys can turn on at any time. So it'll be interesting to see who survives kind of beyond Petra and Serena later into the second week. Any predictions do you have for the women's draw?
Well, I just think Azarenka's going to make that run, I think. She
so you expect her to make the quarters here?
I do expect her to make the quarters because she avoids Serena now.
Yeah.
Last time she had the unfortunate draw facing Serena.
So she will face Serena at best at the quarterfinals.
Yeah. So last time she had to face Serena in the third round, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
So then I feel like if she can avoid that matchup, she seems to be getting back on track. And then grass isn't her preferred surface, but it can suit her type of game.
I'm going to say Maria Sharapova surprises and makes the semifinals. After a long time, I think she's rested, mentally poised to make a good run. Okay, moving on to our final topic. It's our media technology segment, and we're going to discuss a little feature that Roger Federer did with the CEO of Wimbledon using the app Periscope, which is owned by Twitter, I believe.
Yes.
Basically, the streaming app, a live video app. Federer took it along the grounds, was able to answer questions, show fans different areas on the grounds that they may normally not see. But with any sort of live streaming app, there's different implications, especially for a very controlled, heavily monetized live event. Obviously revenue streams are contingent for these Grand Slams on these big TV deals. Does the threat of a Periscope or any other of these live streaming apps have any deeper implications on a sport like tennis or any highly touted live event?
Yeah, but I think I'm going to totally flip that argument around, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And talk about how Periscope could help it probably in some degree or form, controversy may hurt Grand Slams. But what about the 250s? A lot of people look at 250 events as maybe I won't go. A lot of lower ranked players may not be that exciting.
Yeah.
But if you see some really cool moments on Periscope,
right,
then you might really excite the audience and say, okay, maybe I'll check it out the next day. It's in my city. I gotta check that out. I think a good example I saw just past weekend was on a WWE live event. There was usually people saying, okay, nothing much happens on that, right? But all of a sudden, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson makes an appearance,
right?
The big international movie star and everything. At a lower tier event. So imagine if you see something really exciting happening at an ATP 250 WTA international event, then you'll be more excited to enjoy it when you actually see video of it, because those tournaments aren't.
So you feel it generates buzz instead of taking away from those same day views. I think a benefit is that there's only a 24-hour window. These streams will go away, so there's not that impact. But still, if you could see it for free on Periscope, why would you ever invest in tennis TV? And that's a big complaint of a lot of the tennis community, is that our streaming options, first, WTA ones are not even really available, and then ATP ones are sometimes geo-blocked. Why would anybody in tennis invest in it if you can turn to something like this and see it for free, have the streams elsewhere? Ultimately, I think there has to be something. There has to be a limit. I don't think you should be able to stream a 2-hour match.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Periscope or somebody has to say that trigger that, okay, we're watching something that's fairly highly copyrighted, licensed material, and there should be a sort of like a 15-second or minute cap, so you can get the buzz. You can catch the Dwayne Johnson, but you're not basically getting that match for free.
Yeah.
So it needs to kind of feel like sensitive material. Cut it off, make a cut, 15-second promo video, get the people excited, but don't give them the entire, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free argument.
That's why I think one way they got to capitalize on it is these tournaments and the tour and everything. I think. They're gonna throw their Periscopes to the top.
Right.
They right now they're playing with house money. Yeah. They have the promotional power behind them. So I think if they promote what they want out there first, then it kind of pushes everything else to lower down the totem pole, if that makes sense.
Okay. So
just like we saw with Vivo on YouTube.
Yeah.
So the label started pushing their videos onto YouTube, and it started knocking down the unofficial ones down.
So Periscope needs to go corporate. Did you catch a bit of the Roger Federer one?
No, I didn't actually.
Once again, Roger Federer acting like the chairman of the board. Players see him, he gives them a shout out, and they just kind of melt in front of him. It's always good to see Roger Federer take a camera.
We can just make the Roger Federer podcast on social media. So.
We could. Okay, we're nearing the end of episode 46, but like always, we end with certain games. And because it's the start of a Grand Slam, it's a perfect chance to do some challenges. So, let's challenge some people on the tour. I'm going to challenge Mr. Grigor Dimitrov. Mr. Dimitrov, you have the last opportunity to defend a bunch of points. If you lose out early today, this fortnight, you're going to go closer and closer to irrelevancy. Harder for you to get those draws you want. You have an easy draw. You have a great chance, I think, to get to the quarterfinals. It's time for you to show, you've taken the step back. You've had issues with your equipment. But if you are capable, and I think you are, it's time for you to make that run. And it seems to be this year's Wimbledon. It suits that chance for the run.
All right, and my challenge goes out to the Wimbledon team, especially when they're talking about their presence in the U.S. Of course, Wimbledon's already well known in the U.S., but pushing it back a week, I think, should really help raise its profile even more, because they're facing no competition from 4th of July weekend now.
Yeah.
And HBO is helping them out a lot with the 7 Days of Hell mockumentary.
Yeah, which we will hopefully get to in our next podcast.
Yeah, so I really want this Wimbledon should be like a World Cup invading the U.S.
Yeah.
I think it should be like that level of media attention and focus on this Wimbledon.
Okay, and my last challenge is more of a thumbs-up challenge to Laura Robson, who's returning from a wrist injury. A couple of years ago, she's one of the highly touted members of this new class. Obviously, she's been away with injury. I want her to embrace this first match, knowing that she's got a long fight ahead of her. She's not going to get these entries everywhere she goes. It's the start of the Laura Robson comeback. So, good on you, Laura. Make sure the comeback works.
You can also hear more about Laura Robson in episode 39, Living in the Virtual World, as she is featured in Virtual Tennis 4.
Good callback.
Okay.
Social media highlight of the week is one of Laura Robson's former friends, if we can say that.
Former friends?
Yes, former friends.
Oh, no wonder people were like so like antsy for Robson. Well, I guess
a Bouchard match.
Yeah,
in the first round. It's Jeannie Bouchard who obviously knows that she's stuck in a losing streak, so she took to Twitter, saw somebody posted a little meme with our favorites Simba and Mufasa. Basically, they're looking onto the plains, and Simba asks, "What does winning feel like?" And Mufasa says, "I don't know. We are Jeannie Bouchard fans." And she appropriately tweeted, "That really got me. That was funny." So, good on Jeannie for having a sense of humor. Good luck this week trying to defend your finalist points. You have a couple of podcast hosts here who are rooting for you. Thank you for listening. Download this at SoundCloud Urban Tennis Network. Listen to previous ones on our YouTube page, searching Urban Tennis. And read the blog, urbantennis.wordpress.com. We'll be back over these next 2 weeks. Articles, podcasts, everything you need for Wimbledon. Plus the best podcast since the last one you heard. Okay, episode 46. Boris!
Toilet flush sound.
A thunder of jets in an open sky, a streak of gray, and a cheerful... A loop, a whirl, and a vertical climb, and once again you'll know it's time for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and friends.